Hello, my name is Emily and today I'm presenting the rationale behind my 3-lesson sequence. My students are a mixed ability Year 7 health class with diverse learning needs across the cognitive, emotional and social domains. This unit focuses on the topic of personal identity and puberty, which is particularly relevant at this age as students are navigating rapid physical changes while also developing their sense of self and identity. Drawing on the Guttman chart data from Assessment Task 2, I was able to identify 4 distinct zone of proximal development groups. These groups showed a progression from recognising basic puberty-related changes to applying and evaluating strategies for coping with those changes, and even demonstrating leadership in supporting their peers. Understanding where students are at developmentally is crucial for planning instruction that meets them where they are and helps them move forward. As Carol Tomlinson emphasises in her work on differentiation, knowing your learner's readiness, interests and learning profiles is foundational to responsive teaching. In addition, the Australian curriculum outlines that students at this level are developing health literacy, managing emotions, and learning to form respectful relationships. These priorities are particularly highlighted in the general capabilities and in the health strand of the curriculum, which calls for us to support students in navigating personal and social change. So, by using this data to differentiate and align teaching with both developmental needs and curriculum goals, I can better support each student's growth, not just academically, but socially and emotionally as well. Hello. The construct for this unit is personal identity and puberty. I defined this construct as the capacity to understand and navigate the physical, social and emotional changes that come with puberty, while also developing a sense of self. It includes recognising these changes, understanding how they influence relationships and personal identity, identifying and applying coping strategies, reflecting on personal growth, and finally using the correct language to explain these developmental processes. This construct directly reflects the intent of the Victorian curriculum in health and physical education, particularly the content descriptor that asks students to investigate the impact of transition and change on identities. In terms of learning progression, I used the data from our Guttman chart in Assessment Task 1 to structure students into 4 zones of proximal development groups. These ranged from Group 1, which was Billy to Lionel, who are identifying basic physical and emotional changes, to Group 4, which was Coral to Joan, who are ready to evaluate coping strategies and even support others through leadership and communication. This learning sequencing reflects the developmental model of learning, and according to Hattie's visible learning framework, students need to move from surface level understanding to deeper application and evaluation. This construct and its progression also align with the Australian curriculum's emphasis on developing self-awareness, resilience, and respectful relationships during early adolescence. By aligning my construct with this curriculum and learning science, I ensure that the unit is not only age appropriate, but also structured in a way that promotes growth across cognitive and social and emotional domains. To identify what my students are ready to learn, I used the Guttman chart from Assessment Task 2. I've included it here on this slide. This helped me form 4 zones of proximal development groups. Here's what the data showed me. So, Group 1, which includes students like Billy through to Lionel, are working on identifying the physical, emotional and social changes related to puberty. Group 2 was from shade to control and are beginning to connect these changes to their personal identity and social identity. Group 3, students like Jermaine through to Deborah, are ready to apply and reflect on coping strategies. And finally, Group 4, which includes Coral to Joan, are at a point where they can evaluate strategies and even demonstrate leadership in supporting others. This evidence-based grouping allows me to differentiate instruction in a developmentally appropriate way. It ensures that each student is challenged within their learning zone, just beyond their current level of competence, but still reachable with the right support. This approach is grounded in Vygotsky's theory of the zone of proximal development from 1978. Vygotsky argues that the students learn best when instruction targets the space between what they can do on their own and what they can achieve with guidance. That's where scaffolding becomes key, as it allows students to stretch their understanding with support and gradually take on more complex thinking. By using this Gutman chart to locate each student in their zone of proximal development, I've created a structure that lets all students grow, whether they're just starting to understand puberty or they're ready to reflect on how they can lead and support others. These are the learning goals I've developed for each zone of proximal development group, based on student performance from Assessment Task 2 and aligned with the Victorian Curriculum Descriptor, investigate the impact of transition and change on identities. So, Group 1 learners, students like Billy Talina, will focus on identifying and describing important physical, emotional and social changes that occur during puberty. Group 2, Shade to Control, will build on that by explaining how these changes influence their personal and social identity. Group 3, Jermaine to Deborah, will apply and reflect on coping strategies for managing the emotional and social impacts of puberty. And Group 4, Coral to Joan, will evaluate different strategies and use leadership skills to support themselves and others. These goals are carefully scaffolded to reflect an increase in complexity and cognitive demand. They move from basic recall in Group 1 to critical evaluation and leadership in Group 4. This sequencing is informed by Bloom's taxonomy, specifically the revised framework by Anderson and Krathwohl, which supports progression from understanding and applying to analysing, evaluating and creating. They also support social emotional learning, which is crucial in middle years health education. As students move through these strategies, they're developing not only content knowledge, but also their capacity for empathy, self-regulation and communication, skills that are all vital for navigating puberty and building their identity. So each goal serves a dual purpose, advancing curriculum content while also meeting students' developmental and emotional needs. This slide presents my differentiated 3-lesson understanding by design sequence, where all my planning decisions are grounded in evidence-based strategies and the learning needs of my students. To begin, I use whole class activation strategies such as multimodal texts, collaborative group discussions, and the integration of digital tools. These strategies align with the universal design which advocate for multiple means of representation, engagement and expression. This approach ensures accessibility and participation for all learners, including those with diverse needs or learning preferences. These principles come from the work of CAST, and they're especially useful when teaching sensitive topics like puberty, where engagement and emotional safety are essential. Next, I deliver the zone of proximal development specific tasks that are designed to target the readiness levels of each group. For example, Group 1, students construct identity shields. This is to help them explore their sense of self and puberty-related changes. Group 2, students engage in guided discussions about how those changes affect identity and relationships. Group 3, students participate in role-play scenarios where they practice coping strategies. And Group 4, students create health promotion resources to lead and support others. Across all of these lessons, I have embedded the general capabilities from the Australian curriculum. This is personal and social capability that is supported through emotional regulation and relationship building tasks. Ethical understanding comes in when students evaluate strategies for supporting peers, and literacy is continually reinforced through terminology use and communication tasks. For students who demonstrated ceiling level mastery, such as Charlize through to Dante, I've included extension opportunities. These include producing videos, peer mentoring, or creating new learning resources, and are guided by the Department of Education and Training's High Ability Toolkit, which recommends challenge-based, student-driven learning experiences for high ability students. This combination of differentiation, scaffolding, and extension ensures that all students, regardless of their starting point, are provided with opportunities to grow, engage deeply, and demonstrate their learning in meaningful ways. To effectively monitor student progress throughout this unit, I use a combination of formative and summative assessment strategies. This ensures alignment with both learning goals and the construct. For formative assessment, I include exit tickets where students may complete a quick write, select an emoji to reflect their emotional understanding, or do a short quiz. Collaborative group check-ins and teacher conferencing, which gives me immediate insight into student thinking, and digital tools like Padlet reflections and mind maps, which allow students to visually express their understanding in real time. These techniques help me identify misconceptions early and adjust instruction responsively. This approach is strongly supported by Black and Williams research, which found that ongoing formative feedback can significantly boost achievement when used to inform teaching. For summative assessment, students complete a final performance task that's differentiated according to their ZPD group. For example, a Group 1 student might design an infographic by describing puberty changes, and Group 3 might write a personal reflection on applying coping strategies. Finally, Group 4 could develop a health leadership proposal that supports younger peers. All of these summative assessment tasks are assessed using a rubric that incorporates the language of the construct, ensuring that assessment criteria are transparent and aligned to the learning goals. This alignment is key to reducing what Jeff Masters refers to as assessment noise, that is, any mismatch between what we intend to assess and what the task actually measures. By combining these strategies, I ensure that assessment is purposeful, responsive, and directly tied to student learning.